What is up, Scream Team? Zach Cherry here, and today we're gonna rank all of the characters in Scream 5. Just like with Screams 1 to 4, the only real criteria I had for what would constitute a character that would be ranked is that they have to appear in the picture credits at the end. For here, all of the characters included are going to be Amber, Billy, which is actually Ghost Billy, so that's a completely different thing, or Hallucination Billy, whatever we want to call him, Chad, Dewey, Deputy Farney, Gale, Ghostface, or more appropriately, the voice of Ghostface, as Roger L. Jackson was credited at the end of the movie. And then we've got Sheriff Judy Hicks, Liv, Martha Meeks, Mindy, Richie, Sam, Sidney, Tara, Vince, Deputy Vinson, and Wes. So let's just go ahead with Amber, and you know, this list is gonna piss off a lot of people, and that's totally fine. Most of my ranking videos do upset somebody anyway, but I'm gonna say Amber is middle of the road. The reason for this is that I'm not crazy about her as a Ghostface killer. I mean, she's kind of a shitty person. I mean, most of the killers are, but with her specifically, it's almost like just being the killer for the sake of being the killer, which, I mean, we already saw that in the first movie with Stu, but I feel with his character, it was so much more nuanced, whereas Amber, it's like, okay, cool, I had nothing better to do except for be the crazy one, and I feel like, nothing against the actress, because I think that she does a good job in the role, but I think that personally I just wanted a little bit more from this film's killers, both of them really, and I just didn't get that from Amber. It felt like her reveal as Ghostface was more or less just a punchline. Hallucination Billy, this is tricky because, you know, when I first saw the movie, I did not like this twist. I was not a fan of it at all, and, you know, having seen this movie more than 10 times now, I've kind of it's grown on me a little bit. There are shades of Ghost Maureen or Nightmare Maureen Prescott from Scream 3. And I mean, just given the fact that we are getting a past killer back and in some form or another, that is a novelty that I do appreciate. So I'm going to say that this was memorable. This was actually a very memorable inclusion. And it might have been used a little too much. I think he might have appeared in one scene too many, but at the end of the day, I'm fine with it. Chad, again, I'm going to say he's memorable. This might actually be, one of my favorites of the newer, the friend group that we saw. So actually I'm going to put him above Billy, or in front of Billy there. Kind of low-key my favorite character of the movie, if we aren't including the legacy characters. But unfortunately, I feel like he was just very underutilized, but not in a way where, I feel like I didn't get a sense of who this character was, but more so leaving me wanting more. I wanted to see more of him, and that's why I'm really glad that he did survive and is going to come back for the next movie, because he does have a lot more depth than just kind of the typical jock character. Dewey, I'm gonna say, obviously, simply the best. Maybe not the best, but I actually think that out of all of David Arquette's performances throughout the franchise, all 5 movies, this is probably his strongest one, especially coming off of Scream 4, where I feel like he was totally wasted. That, it's nice that they actually did something with him here. He actually had an arc. Obviously, it's very upsetting that, he had to. But I think out of the 3, it made the most sense that it would be him. And I've said this in the past just because prior to this, Sidney and Gale didn't ever really have a strong relationship. They're good, and we've seen them evolve over the course of each film, and I'll get to that more later. But with Dewey, he always had a very strong connection with Sidney, and he always had a very strong connection with Gale. So for the killers to fracture that would just make the most sense from a story standpoint, because then it forces Gale and Sidney to come together. So he's the sacrificial lamb, and that sucks, but I feel like they gave him the best I mean, I don't want to say the best, because I didn't like how he went out of just being distracted by getting the phone call. I can see him going back and being like, you gotta shoot him in the head. That is a problem I have with the writing, not so much the character, because I don't think that would ever happen. I'd rather he was thrown off guard for other reasons and not being distracted in the moment. But it is what it is. It's written in stone now. So Dewey, will remain in simply the best. Deputy Farney, who literally, has one moment in the film. He does appear in a deleted scene where he also doesn't really get very much either. And I like this character or this actor because I think that in like what little he has, like that exchange with Sam, he emotes so much empathy. I mean, I'm just astonished that he's even, an option to rank here because he is such a non-character. But, between the two deputies, I'm going to say he's middle of the road, but he'll probably be the very end of the middle of the road for me. Gale obviously is going to be simply the best, and unfortunately, even though this is Dewey's, like, in my opinion, best outing, I'm always gonna say Gale is above him. Granted, like, there's not a whole lot of Gale in this movie, especially in like the first half or even the middle. It's not really till the end that she kind of shines through. But I love the fact that, and I'll mention this now with Sidney, that we do finally get to see them being friends. And, like we take a look at the movie, Scream 1, Sidney punches her. I'll send you a copy. Bam, bitch went down. Like, there is so much animosity between those two. Like, these are not friends. Scream 2, really changed that. That was really Gale's time at the top. But again, with that, when we see Sidney and Gale come together, it's almost like we have this shared history, but I'm still not trusting of you. And then, of course, she springs Cotton Weary and you get the slap 2.0. Scream 3, this was a really fun moment because, they see each other and it's almost like, yeah, we've been through this before, but, are we going to not get along, or are we going to like just accept the fact that, we're in this together and we're both connected through Dewey? So there's like this hesitation of like, do we hug or not? But, Sidney's like, I'm glad you're okay. And it's a nice moment. It makes sense with their trajectory. But one thing that I really do appreciate in Scream 4 is the work that Courteney Cox and Neve Campbell do when they do get to be on screen, because that moment where they come together at first is very interesting because Gale is like super jealous of Sidney's success, but even on Sidney's end, they have this hug and it's not as awkward as the Scream 3 hug, but then the moment that Sidney sees Dewey coming into the bookshop behind Gale, her like disposition changes completely. She's ecstatic to see Dewey and it's just like almost like shoves Gale aside. So with this movie, it's almost like this is the catharsis that I've been waiting for like 25 years, where we finally get to see them like genuinely embrace and mean it and like be friends. And I love that Gale gets her moment, like just at the end being so badass, even though she's been shot, but then for her to come back and shoot Amber, not kill her, but at least shoot her with Dewey's gun. It was a nice moment there. And then even after the fact of her kind of coming full circle and realizing, I don't need to write a book about these people. Like, I have nothing to say about them. I'd rather write a book about my ex-husband. Ghostface, okay. Definitely simply the best. I just don't know where, because just obviously this is in terms of Roger L. Jackson as the voice, not so much the ghost face, because I really feel that this is his strongest outing since the first movie, since that like the Drew Barrymore scene, because he does get to play a lot more than just the menacing, like right to the threats, because in Scream 2, I think like there might have been a brief little bit with Sarah Michelle Gellar. Scream 3, he was not even like really present in that because we had the thing that could mimic everyone's voice. And then in Scream 4, I feel like every time he came on the phone there, it was immediately like, I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna slit your eyelids, which is fun. Like, I love that, but I like eat it up so much when this movie starts and you have Tara pick up the phone and it's just like, is Christina there? And just hearing him like fumble through these lines, like I'm actually playing this part, which is so reminiscent of the first movie, but still I like not hearing him being threatening or menacing. Like, I like the build up to that. I think that Roger L. Jackson is so talented that when you have him, as I hope that they continue to have him for as long as they do these movies and he'll be doing them with them, that they can use him to the full extent of his talent. So, I mean, because he's a voice, I'm gonna leave him there. Like, he's behind Dewey and Gale for sure. I don't think I could justify putting the voice of Ghostface above any of those guys. Judy, I'm gonna say middle of the road. But like definitely above Amber. And the thing is, like, Judy was done dirty in this movie, and I really liked Judy in this movie. I felt that I liked her a lot more in this movie than I did in Scream 4, and I liked the fact that like Marley Shelton played her like this was the same character, like there was all like still the same kind of quirkiness, but in a kind of like a more mature way, like more so to like match the tone of this film, because in Scream 4 she did really feel like a caricature rather than a character. And here, I feel like she can do scenes or like, read lines and be serious about them, but also, do her silly things. And I loved when she is on the phone with Ghostface and he asked her what your favorite scary movie is. And she says, I prefer animated films and musicals, because that's such a Judy thing to say. But it's also in the moment, she's still being serious about this because it's like she's got a job to do. So I'm placing her in middle of the road because I wish that she had more to do here. I was going into this film hoping and expecting that we would see more from Judy. So it's sad that she was taken out so soon. Liv, I'm going to just say die already. This is a character that did not need to be in this movie. And I feel like every time she is on screen, I can't really get a read on who she is, because I feel like each time she appears, it's almost like she is playing a different character. And clearly she's kind of set up to be, I guess, like the Tatum archetype, or Olivia, which is funny because they have the same name, Liv, Olivia. But it's almost like they did nothing with her. Like her main purpose was to be a red herring, but she wasn't even used successfully in that regard. And then, like, the funniest thing that I noticed when I was editing the Who Killed Who in Scream 5 video is that she's not even, like, they forgot about her post getting shot in the head, because even like immediately after that, when Sam and Richie are running, well, really, like, Richie's pulling Sam into the kitchen, and you see them pass by the entryway to the room there, and Liv's not, like, her body's not lying there. There's no blood spatter on the wall behind them, and this is like in the same scene. So fuck up on the filmmaker's part, which, I mean, like, these things happen, but it just kind of speaks to the volumes of how unimportant this character is in the grand scheme of the movie. Martha Meeks, I'm gonna say memorable. I was actually really happy to see her come back. And even though, like, it's so far removed from Scream 3, like, so much time has passed as well that I don't even know if, like, the characterization is the same, because, like, clearly, like, this is more than 20 years later, but it was just nice to see that familiarity. And I think that she was used exactly the right amount. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to see her used any more or any less. Again, this is another character I'm surprised that she's even listed in the main cast at the end, but because she is, I'm going to put her there, and I'm going to say she's, I'm going to put her right there, behind Hallucination Billy. Mindy is also memorable, and I'd say, like, Mindy might have been, like, my favorite character going into this, or like coming out of this, the first time I saw it. And Mindy is, like, she's a fan favorite for sure. There are things that I don't love about her. Like, I don't think that she's fully fleshed out. She suffers from maybe some of the same issues that I have with Kirby, where it sometimes felt like this wasn't an actual human being, or like how a person would react. But she's one that I'm very excited to see moving forward, and what they do with her. And I'm glad both of the twins survived, because I wouldn't want that for any of the Meeks family to have lost someone. Who knows what will happen in Scream 6. She was kind of responsible for a lot of the film's funnier lines, and I always like the funny characters. So I kind of like Chad better, because he's also funny, and I think that he's just has a little bit more, dare I say, humanity to him. Mindy seems to be very cavalier when it comes to, like, a lot of, like, people and things, but maybe that'll change now that she's kind of faced death and survived. Richie, I'm gonna say memorable, and I'm probably going to because I really love Jack Quaid in this. I think he delivers a really great performance. I don't love the character as much, just because like the same thing with both of these killers. I think that they suck. They suck as killers. They're fucking stupid and they're incompetent, and like clearly like their plan was never going to work. But with Richie, I see it more with him because like, and I know that this was kind of what they were going for, to like make him seem really pathetic in the end, because like, I mean, both of them really get annihilated by the good guys. But with Richie, I feel like there's a little bit more nuance than there is with Amber, because Amber is just like, it's just like I'm crazy for the sake of being crazy, where Richie is just like, he's kind of a loser. And like, I enjoy that. I appreciate that. And he is on the screen for a very long time, and he does play many different roles here. Like he's always wearing a different hat, where I feel like Amber is kind of always playing the same person. You know, like even when the mask is on or the mask is off, like she's just turned up a little bit more. I'm gonna say above Billy. And keep in mind, this is hallucination Billy. This is not Billy Loomis as we know him. This is just Billy as in what we see with Sam's hallucination. This might be controversial. I'm gonna put Sam in simply the best. And you know, maybe, who knows, maybe I'll move her down to memorable. I understand what people say about her, like when they express the issues that they have with this character, mainly with the acting, and I don't really fault her for that. I think like what's kind of like grown on me with Sam is that she's just a character who, like, she's tenacious. She fights back. Something I realized while doing the Who Killed Who video is that she's basically in control of this whole movie. You know, other Scream movies, it's always the killers who are, you know, kind of pulling the strings. And, you know, that's probably why I don't like the killers as much in this movie. But here, the plot unfolds based on everything that she does, all of the decisions that she makes. She does have all these badass moments. And, you know, while, you know, some of the dialogue might be cringy, and especially like the big diary confessional scene, like, you know, it might not have been played the best. But with this character, I can see the potential to, you know, go more, like go further places. She's pretty much on screen for the most, like, I think she probably has the most screen time in this movie. And I don't think that she disappoints in that regard. I think, you know, it's a very tall order when you are pitted against Sidney, Gale, and Dewey, and, you know, you have to contend with a new cast as well. So I think the cards were stacked against her, but I think that, you know, at the end of the day, she pulled it off really well. Like she went to town on Richie with that knife at the end there, which is, I mean, probably the most brutal kill of the franchise at this point. I could be wrong, someone correct me. But also just the fact that this is a character who we see has history and connections with the other characters, like such as the twins, that I just feel like just because of all of that, she is a little bit more well-rounded than most of the new cast. So, I mean, I could put her in memorable, like she would be at the very top of memorable, but I'm gonna say simply the best because, you know, I think that she deserves it, and we're gonna see in Scream 6 that, you know, wherever the story goes, people are going to turn around on her if they haven't already. Sidney is simply the best, obviously, and I'm gonna say she's at the top of the list. This might not be Sidney's best outing, but I feel that like with what little she does here, because this is the least amount of screen time that Neve Campbell has in any of these movies, we see a character who's evolved and grown from the last sequel, that like there's so much that's gone on behind the scenes, like over the years, that we don't see. And obviously here, you know, she's married and has kids, presumably married to Mark Kincaid of Scream 3, but it's almost like she's able to play it in a way that like her face and her expressions and body language and just like the way that she delivers every line and look tells us so much about this. Like Neve Campbell has grown to become my favorite final girl, and it's hard to pick between her and Gale because they are both such incredible characters. But Sidney, just every time she shows up, I've said this before too, but she's like Predator. She's like the final girl version of Predator. Like she fights the bad guys and she gains a little more intel and just becomes smarter and stronger and can like kill them even better the next time we see her, which is ironic because she doesn't actually kill anyone in this movie. But I mean, it's almost like the fact that we know that she could have and she just chose not to. She let the other people do it, which I think is even more badass. So So like in that regard, with what little she got to do, like she hit this one out of the park. So Sidney is number one for me here. Tara, I'm also going to say is memorable. I'm going to say Tara is here. And I think that like what I will say about Tara, or more specifically Jenna Ortega, I think that she is probably the best actor of this movie, other than obviously like Courtney Cox and Neve Campbell. But just like in terms of like the new cast, like she is so good. And like especially in that opening scene, which is like her biggest scene in the movie, where she's basically performing by herself. But I think like the thing that holds her back for me is that we don't really get any sense of her relationships with any of the other characters other than Sam. And that is a huge hindrance for me, because that's now going to set her at a disadvantage for Scream 6, because we're going to have to establish these relationships with people, like not even all over again, but like to begin with, because we don't know like what her relationship is with Chad or Mindy. Like we know what it is, but we've never seen it. So it's like, it's another facet that's going to have to be introduced to us. And I feel like there could have been more to her in this movie, not necessarily more scenes, but just like more interactions with the other new characters, because as it is, like we basically just see her with Sam. Like there might be like a little bit with Richie. I feel like even her scenes with Amber were not very fleshed out. There is, I guess in the original script, it's established that they are girlfriends, and for some reason, whatever that may be, it was changed in the shooting script that they were just best friends. But again, like Sam and Mindy and Chad in that vein, is like, I'm interested to see more of this character moving forward. Vince, unfortunately, I'm going to say could have been better. Not quite just die already, because this is a character with a lot of potential. And, you know, especially given the fact that he is Stu Macher's nephew, it's revealed that he's Stu Macher's nephew, that if they were planning on framing Sam because she's Billy Loomis's daughter, why not frame Vince since he's Stu Macher's nephew? Like frame both of them. And I feel like, you know, like Kyle Gallner is also another like good actor who is underused here. He was like Beaver in Veronica Mars. He was in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which we don't talk about. But he was barely in 2 minutes. It really feels like his role was just truncated. Like I just feel like there was so much that they could have done, at least going forward in the movie, of just having more characters to be suspects. That's the thing here. Like nobody was really a suspect, and especially given the film's marketing with every character, or at least like the 12 main cast members, all having their own poster with a mask and the tagline of "It's always someone you know." You would think that there would be more emphasis put on the mystery and on suspects, and it didn't pan out that way. So I think that this was a huge disappointment, and they definitely did him dirty. He deserved a much better role here. Deputy Vinson, I'm going to say just die already. And the reason why he's so much lower than Deputy Farney, I mean, I already talked about Deputy Farney, but with Deputy Vinson, he just sucks at his job. You know, we get the line from Judy, and this is another reason why Judy kind of sucks too in this movie, is like, she's like, don't worry, you're in good hands. Like Deputy Vinson is the best we got, or whatever she says. And then we see him like sitting in his chair outside, and he's just like on his phone, you know, playing Candy Crush or whatever, I don't know. And not only that, but the only time he actually looks up is to eavesdrop. And then, you know, when she gives him that, what are you looking at? He just like quickly looks away. Like he's too spineless to even be like, yeah, I've got your number. I know what you're up to. So he sucks for that. He sucks for the fact that he left his post. He left Tara, even when he showed up there and Sam's like, what are you doing? Who's watching my sister? And he's like fumbling with this, where he's like, they needed me here. And also on top of that, when we see Judy texting Farney to get a trace on the caller, there's a previous text message above that which implies that Deputy Vinson is also not a very responsible officer, or just like he's not carrying out his tasks. So because of that, he's gonna be my least favorite character of this movie. And then finally Wes, I'm gonna say memorable. I'm gonna put him at the end of memorable, because this is another character, like he could have been used better, but I like Dylan Minnette is a really really good actor. So I appreciated what he did in this role. I think that scene, just at the Hicks residence, is probably my favorite moment in the whole movie. So I'm glad that we did have it. I'm glad that he got to do it, but I feel like this is a character who exited the movie a little too early for my liking. Like, I would have appreciated a lot more screen time from both him and Judy. So there you have it, my ranking of all 18 characters from worst to best. I want to thank my Patreon supporter, Cal Hill Young. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below what your personal ranking would be of all 18 Scream 5 characters. Until next time, I've been Zach Cherry, and I'll be right back.